So a scoreless draw for the Republic of Ireland against Wales. Stuey Byrne was alongside me watching this Nations League clash. 4 games in for Stephen Kenny. No victories, just 1 goal. But are things getting better?
Yeah, I think so. It's frustrating that we haven't been able to pick up a win. And you look back at, in particular, today's game and the Slovakia game, and I think we've played the better football. We've created the better chances. Certainly, I think we should have won the game the other night. We should have won the game here. Now, when you compare, the fact that I'm even saying that now, I wouldn't have said that 2 years ago. I wouldn't have said it a year ago. I think possession-wise, when we played the likes of Wales before, we weren't. We would have played quite differently. Would have been a little bit more direct, energetic. We would have depended on maybe a bit of luck or a good cross or whatever the case may be. But I think you're starting to see a little bit more structure to how we play now. I think there's for me anyway, at least we're playing a better brand of football, and that will ultimately lead to wins. It'll just take time because you can see that we're still transitioning as a group. The issue of scoring goals is still a bit of a problem.
It's been a problem for years. So that's in our last 3 years, 18 competitive games, and Ireland have scored 10 goals.
Yeah, we take Robbie Keane out of the equation, and scoring goals has been a problem for the last 15 years. So unfortunately, we don't have that luxury. You can't get them kind of players anymore. They don't make them like that anymore. It's as simple as that. They're not coached like that anymore. So what we do need is we need a better understanding amongst the group that everybody's there to score goals. I think the way we play now will ultimately lead to that. I think the way we play now will create opportunities for all for a much wider range of players rather than maybe a couple of centre forwards or whatever the case may be. There just needs to be a little bit more belief, I think, in the players that they can go get goals. And you look back at the chance that Hourihane had the other night, just lacked a little bit of belief, didn't he? Look at Long's header here today, a little bit of belief. That's all it is. That's the difference. It's regardless of, and it doesn't matter what level you're playing at, whether you're playing in the Phoenix Park like yourself, or you're playing at top level.
Never even got to that.
Never even got to that. Whether you're playing at the top level,
Like
belief is a huge thing, and it's fractions. It's fractions.
Yeah. It was obviously a very, very messy day, and we'll get on to that and all the COVID implications, everything that's been happening. In terms of the performance then, where you feel there were positives, what stood out for you out there?
Lots really. I think Enda Stevens is now, is probably one of our best players. I think he's developed and he's grown so much. His composure, his quality. He was great to watch. He really was, and at times he was one of our most creative players on the pitch. I like that Hendrick is coming back to something like his old self. Being a bit critical of him in the past under Martin O'Neill, thought he looked a little bit lost in what he was and how he was being asked to play or where he's been asked to play. He looks much more assured of himself now, and he's definitely starting to come back to something like his best. And I think you can point to all the players and see there's been big improvement there. We look at a more confident bunch of players. It's just the more time this team gets under the belt, I think the goals will come. I certainly think the chances will come with just sticking the ball in the back of the net. It's going to be, and it's becoming more of a psychological thing than it is than anything. And so you need to break that duck sooner rather than later. Otherwise, it'll start to rot.
Yeah. The one player out there who's very much part of the new Kenny era was Jayson Molumby. Came into the side, second full international. Hasn't been playing much on club level over the past month or so, a couple of cup games here and there for Brighton. Geez, he was really impressive, and everything you hear about him in terms of the work rate, the energy, the attitude, the personality, he seems to be able to bring it out there at a very young age.
Yeah, I love the attitude. I have to say, I like players that have a little bit of that in them, because you need that as well.
Angry.
Yeah, a little bit angry. Yeah, just as long as you pick and choose the times to be angry. But he's got that in him. I think what he needs to do is he needs to control it. And from what I've seen today, I think he's been a huge. There's been a maturity in his performance as opposed to the Finland game here. I thought he played quite well in the Finland game here, but probably tried a little bit too hard. Sometimes you don't need to always be bursting around the pitch, trying to cover every blade of grass. And for me, the way he played today, is the way he should always play. Like, you know, he was decisive at times. He picked up. He was dropping in deep, getting us playing. And then when he got on the ball in more advanced areas, he was using that energy and that burst of pace that he has to kind of to push forward and take on players, and he was creating things. So an excellent performance for him today.
Advocates of Stephen Kenny will look at these two performances in particular and say, created enough chances to win the games with the better teams against sides that have come here over recent years, and Ireland have been anywhere near them at times in terms of quality of football, and Ireland have played quite well. But it's 4 games now, it's 1 goal, and there's no victory so far. So criticism will come for Stephen Kenny already.
Yeah.
How do you think he deals with that? Do you think he has anything to be worried about over the last 4 matches?
It's nothing he won't know himself, Nathan. He'll know the areas where they need to improve. Like, he's not going to he's not going to be living in the clouds. Like, you'll always need to improve, you know, and that's inevitable. He may need to prioritise where we need to improve, and where we need to improve is in front of goal.
Well, he can't magic up a striker.
No, you can't. But what you just have to try and instill a belief in the players, in all the players, that they can get goals, and they need to get goals, because, like I said, we don't have that player, you know, and he's not coming through either. You know, Connolly may turn out to be a 10-15 goal a season kind of a guy. Parrott might be the same, but we don't have a crystal ball. It's very hard to see that 20-25 goal a season striker. I don't think he can get them anymore. It's just as simple as that, like, you know. So I think it's just he just has to work on the belief of the players. He's got one more game now. He's got the Finland game on Wednesday, and I think that's the focus.
He's had injury problems around these games. Coleman, McCarthy, McGoldrick for today. He was missing 7 players today due to COVID-related issues. The story emerging earlier today, 5 more players, 1 positive case, 4 close contacts. A lot of questions again today with Gary Owens on off the ball earlier about where Enda and Connolly were sitting on the plane. Should they have been sitting there? Whose responsibility was that? What's your take on it all?
I think the issue with Enda and Connolly, there's a kind of responsibility on the players, you know, during this period, that they're not making silly mistakes, that they adhere to guidelines, that, and it's not just for their benefits, for the benefit of everybody. But there's another significant point here as well. You know, managers these days go to the ends of the earth in detail, in preparation, to get some sort of an edge on the opposition. You know, you see all the amount of work that goes into the video stuff, the tactical stuff, looking at the opposition. It's now becoming obvious that during this period, whoever can stop their players from getting COVID-19 is going to have an edge. It's as simple as that. We've lost, was it 2 players the other night, and we've now lost 5 today, 7 players in 2 games. It's obvious to me that if you can get it into the heads of the players that it's the advantage here is to stay healthy and safe, and that may well be the difference. So it's an added detail. It may be a temporary thing. It won't be around for another year. It won't be around in a year or so. But now it seems to be making the difference.